Hey everyone, Ray Del Vecchio here. We're back for the third part of the WordPress basics tutorial where we're going to dig into plugins, widgets, and also talk about user accounts. I briefly brought this up while we were installing themes, but you notice that certain themes recommend plugins that operate well together. So if we go to our plugins page, I think I installed, yeah, I have two plugins that I installed, but I didn't activate them. And I'm just going to end up deleting these. So one thing you might want to note is that I know for my web host, which I use HostGator, they pre-install, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 different plugins when you use their one-click WordPress installation. And in general, I might be different than most people here, but I usually just delete everything. I don't want anything that they tell me should be installed. And once again, this has to do with your comfort level. I'm really comfortable with building a site from scratch on WordPress, and I want to choose everything that's going to be included. And the other reason is you don't want too many plugins because say you have 15 plugins or 20 plugins installed. Not only is it going to make the entire website a little bit more bulky, but it's going to take a long time to load. So you might increase the load time of your website. And on top of that, certain plugins don't work well with other plugins, and they may cause weird errors, conflicting errors, and that's something you generally want to avoid. So I usually, on average, try and install less than 10 plugins, and if I can do less than 5, that's even better. So let me just select all here, and I'll go to the bulk actions menu to delete these. And just to note, certain times you can't delete a plugin if it's active. So you might want to, if you want to delete these, sometimes you might want to just deactivate them first, apply that, and then go through and then delete them. But since these are not activated, I could just go right to the delete step. So we're going to delete these, and I will just talk about a few plugins that I tend to install on every website. Let me click on the Add New here, and these are actually some of the ones that I think are pre-installed. I know Jetpack, I'm pretty sure that was pre-installed, and Akismet, that's an anti-spam plugin for spam comments. So if you have an active blog, you might want to keep that on there. Since the vast majority of my time in WordPress is dealing with business websites, I tend to focus on other plugins, and the most important one that I've found is a contact form, because obviously if you're running a business, all that you really care about with having a website is getting leads. And how do you get leads? Well, leads are going to come through either phone calls or emails. So the one that I like to install is called Contact Form 7. And this was, when I first searched for it, it was one of the biggest contact form plugins out there. That was probably 5-6 years ago. And I think they're still at that level. They still have probably more active installations than any other contact form plugin available. You can see here it's got almost 1,500 reviews, which is 4.5 stars, and over 1 million active installations. So I really don't have any experience with other contact form plugins because this one has worked for me for many, many years. So let me install this one really quick. And what this is going to do, if you look over the menu here, once we activate it, we'll have a section called Contact. So let's activate this, and you will see the new menu pop up here. And this is where you can manage your contact forms and build them. And once you activate it, it comes with a contact form already built, an example contact form. If you look over here, instead of needing to build this manually, you can use the shortcode, which I discussed in the previous video. So you do all your customization through this section, and then you can just easily paste this shortcode into any page or post that you want to include the contact form. And then if you need to edit it, you can go back to this contact form, edit it, and it will be updated anywhere that you paste this shortcode. So if we look in here, you can see you do have a little bit of code that you have to deal with. So this might take a little bit of time if you're not well versed with HTML code. But they make it really easy to add new labels here. So you can see the fields that are within this contact form are your name, your email, the subject, and the message. And you can see all the buttons here. These are the different elements that you can add to the form. So if you want to add a text field, you could do that, and that's obviously what they use here for the subject line. You have the text area field. That's what they use for the message. So this is a multi-line text field. And once again, we have a text field for the name, email, which does email validation. So let's actually just copy and paste this. Let's say, for instance, I'm just going to add a second email field here, even though you would normally not include this in a contact form, but I just want to show you how it's built. So I'm going to copy this HTML code for the label, and this is really nothing. This is the text that you can edit however you like. This is the short code for the particular field. So let me just delete this, and I will click this email button, and this is going to generate our email tag. So I'm going to call this one email to. You can make it required or not required. So if it's not required, they don't have to fill this in. If it is required and they try and submit the form, they'll get an error message that tells them there's fields missing. So I'm going to make it a required field. And this is your tag right here. So watch what happens when I uncheck this required field. You can see an asterisk gets added right here. So within the shortcode, this asterisk, that's what makes this particular field required. And if you'd like to type a default value in there, I think this is just going to be like a placeholder. So let me do your email at domain.com, and we'll take a look at how this looks on our website when we place the shortcode on a page. And then here we go. Use this text as the placeholder of the field. So I'm going to select that. It looks like Akismet is built into this, but I don't have that installed right now, so I'm not going to worry about it. And then if you like to add, if you know HTML and you like to add specific IDs or classes, this can help if you need to customize anything with CSS or do anything with JavaScript. So let's just insert that tag in there. We're going to save this. And they give you a few other tabs here. There's the mail tab. So this is what's going to define where the contact form gets sent to. You can see right now this is going to my Gmail address. And over here, you have the name for each of these fields. So the text field here for the name is your name. The email one is your email. The one that we just created is email to. So over in the mail tab, that's where all these bits of information from the contact form are put into the email that gets sent to you. So right now I don't have that email to anywhere in here. I could put it, if say I want to put it in the message body, I'll just put backup email, and I will put in email to. Let me just copy and paste it. It'll just make it easier. And that's all you need to do for creating a new field and placing it within the email. If you'd like to actually build this message body with a little bit of styling, you can include HTML. All you need to do is click this checkbox, and say you want to make something bold, you want to make these bold, you can use the strong tag like we showed you I think in the first video. And if you have a little bit of functional HTML knowledge, that really does help you out a lot, because number one, you can break down what's happening on the back end when you see HTML. And number two, if you'd like to add any customizations like this, it's relatively easy. And these are the default messages that are displayed. I'm not going to go through all these because normally you don't need to change these unless you want to create a custom message for the user when they either send it successfully or unsuccessfully. And they have additional settings here, but once again, unless you're an advanced user, you normally don't need to deal with that. So let's just save this. This is our shortcode up here, so we can copy and paste it, and we're going to go into the contact page and include this shortcode, and we'll see how it looks on the live website. So we're going to put this below the gallery. Let me just paste that in. We'll update this and view the page on the back end, or I'm sorry, on the front end. This is the back end, the administrator section. So here you go. There's our contact form with your name, your email, and this is our second email with a placeholder. And let's see what happens when we try and send it without filling in any of these fields. You'll see the error messages that pop up. So you get the red text that tells you that this field is required. So that's just the basic contact form, and I tend to install a contact form set or the plugin contact form 7 on, I would say, every website I build. I mean, there's only maybe one or two websites that I haven't included it on. But the nice thing about WordPress is that there's plugins for almost anything that you want to do. So in general, I normally I came to WordPress through a code background, so I like to think about things manually, and sometimes I'll think about how to implement something manually with code. It can actually be an advantage if you don't know anything about code, because if you just search for a function that you want to include within your website, there's probably like an 80% chance that you're going to find a plugin that does what you need to do. And you might need to tweak something here and there to get it exactly as you'd like it, but I mean, there's plugins for everything. So say you want to insert a table, so that's a good example. I've used this plugin called Table Press, and I'm sure there's probably 10 other plugins that you can use that do the same thing. This is the one that I chose when I needed to include a table of data within a website. And when I'm choosing a plugin, there's a couple things you want to look at. I mean, it makes sense. You want to look at the reviews. So you want to see how many 5-star ratings there are. So you can see this one has over 3,000. So this one has 2. This is actually extension for Table Press. This one has 4. I'm looking for the most 5-star reviews, the most active installations, and when it was last updated. If it was last updated 3 years ago, I'm going to be hesitant to install that unless it's a really, really simple plugin. But if I see something here where it's last updated a week or 2 ago, you know that the developers of this plugin are staying active with it, keeping it updated, and adding new features. That's pretty much what I'm looking for. I always try and install plugins that have the highest number of 5-star ratings, active installations, and the most recent updates. The other one that I install on most websites is Yoast SEO. So this is probably the most popular SEO plugin. If you don't know anything about SEO, this is basically going to improve the way that your website appears on Google. So let's just install this really quickly so you can take a look at how it works on the posts and the pages. If I activate this, it's going to bring up another menu on here, your SEO menu. I don't want to go into this in depth because that's, that could be a separate video, but if we go into one of our pages here, let's go back to the home page. You're going to see that this plugin adds a new section here called Yoast SEO. And by default, Google will grab content from your website to appear if somebody searches Google and your website appears. Say you want to customize the title and the description of each page. This is something you want to do instead of having the same title and the same description on a bunch of different pages. You want uniqueness, and you want to add as many keywords that are relevant to your website topic as possible, so you get the broadest range of keywords that people can find you on Google. So if we click on here, we can edit the title to whatever we want. So it's going to default to something here, so we can customize it. So we'll just do custom title. This is my website. Obviously, I'm not spending a lot of time with what I'm choosing here, but you can see this kind of just shows you exactly how your website page is going to appear within Google. It's a good idea to go through all your posts and your pages, customize the titles, customize the descriptions, and use as many unique keywords and related phrases to your website content as possible. I'm back here on the plugins page, and I want to briefly mention a couple other plugins that I tend to use often. And the one that has a suite of services is called Sumo. It used to be called Sumo Me, but they eventually bought Sumo.com and rebranded as Sumo. You can see here their title is Free Tools to Automate Your Site Growth. So what they have available is social icons that you can add to the side of your page if you want to make it easy for people to share your content. Let me see if we have some screenshots on here. They have email list building services. Here we go. So here's one of them. They have an image share option where you can have social icons appear when people hover over your images. So say you have either a fashion website or a food website where you have a lot of high quality images that you want people to share on Pinterest or Facebook. They have an option to make it really easy to share that. Then they have these pop-ups. So if you're familiar with my website, if you go to my website, I have this installed on websiteprofitcourse.com. There's scroll pop-up. So when somebody scrolls down maybe 50% down an article or a page, they'll get this little email list builder. There's the exit intent window. So if you're going to scroll off the page, you'll get a little pop-up to get somebody to put in their email before they exit out of your page. And I mean, they have like 5 or 10 other really cool features. You can see here, this is a add-on for content analytics where you can see how far people are scrolling down the page and reading. So it'll show you if people are only reading maybe, you know, the first quarter of an article, or if they're actually getting to halfway through the article. They have heat maps, which I think I passed that by. Yeah, it's right here. So it'll show you where people are clicking and which links they're clicking on most often. I think this is one of the cooler plugins that I found recently that gives you like, you know, 10 different tools that you can use for your website. Another one that I use fairly often is called 301 Redirect. So this is only I added an extra Y there. This is only needed if you're rebuilding a website or redesigning a website and you need to forward the old URLs to the new ones. So a good example is if you did build an HTML and say, for instance, that your about page was mydomain.com/about.html, and you want to forward that to mydomain.com/about, which is the WordPress URL, you would do that using this plugin, Simple 301 Redirects. I do this whenever I redesign a website just to make sure that if there's any links out there to these other URLs that are not going to exist anymore, that they automatically get forwarded to the correct page on the new website. That's all we're going to talk about for plugins. As you can see, there's so many out there that you can install and test out on your website. I want to talk about widgets now. So if we go back to the appearance section, you'll see the widgets menu here. And widgets are an easy way for you to add content to your website without needing to know code, once again. And as I'm looking at this, there's certain widgets that are built into WordPress, and because I have that theme Better Health installed, it looks like they provide widgets for this particular theme. Now right now we have the sidebar widget area. So if I go over to the main website, you'll see that is what's building the content on this sidebar over here. So we have a search box, the recent posts, recent comments, archives, categories, and the meta section, which provides links to log in for the site admin or to log out. If we go back in here, you'll see that's what these different areas are. These are drag and droppable, so if you want to reorder them, you can easily drag and drop. You can add a title to some of these if you like. So for the search bar, it doesn't look like there's a title added, but if we add one and save it and refresh the page over here, you'll see how that updates. So now we have the search title right there. And if we look on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of available widgets. So besides these ones that came with the theme, there's, you know, your archives widget, categories, gallery if you want to do an image gallery, an individual image, calendar. You can add a menu. Let me see if there's a menu widget. I don't know if they have a menu widget or if you can just list the pages. Let me drag and drop this. And it looks like you can list certain pages, sort by page title, and you can exclude certain pages by the page ID. There's inactive widgets. So say you don't want to delete one of these. You know, maybe you built something out, but you don't want to delete it. You just want to remove it. You can drag it over here to the inactive widget section. So it's not deleted. And in the future, if you ever want to add it back in, you can do that. Here's the navigation menu. So I drag and drop that in, and you can add the title and select whatever menu that you created within this appearance menu section. And then if you do want to get into highly customizable widgets, you can add this custom HTML and add your HTML code. There's also the text widget, which is formatted kind of like the posts page, or the posts or the pages section, where you have this visual tab and the text tab. You can add media, so it's kind of just a light version of the post and page editor. So widgets make it really, really easy to add content to your website, update the content on your website in certain areas, And you'll notice that different themes have different areas where you can add widgets. So you can see this one has 4 footer widgets. But if you add or install a different theme, it may not have any footer widgets, but it may have a widget for, a blog page and the home page, whereas this one just has a home page widget area. So there's a lot of variations with how the widgets are going to be organized relative to the theme that you have installed. But like I said, this section makes it really easy to drag and drop and add content to different sections of your site without using the posts or pages section and without using custom HTML. The final thing that I want to discuss in this video is user accounts. So if I go over here to the user section, you know that when we install WordPress, we're going to get a username and password so that we can log in. And we are an administrator, so we have full access to everything on this website to edit it. But let's say you want to have somebody to edit your articles. We can add a new account here, put in their username, their email address, and it'll give them a password. This will automatically send the new user an email with their account information, and I believe the password will be included in that. And obviously, if you don't want to send them an email, you could just unclick that. And then there's different roles here. So the one thing you want to look at is what is included with these different roles. So if we just have an editor, they might not have access to some of these other settings or the plugins. They might just have access to the pages and posts. And the same thing, with a contributor or a subscriber, they're going to have an even lower level of access to the different sections within this WordPress admin area. But it gives you an easy way to potentially outsource some work. So if you want to outsource, blog writing, or you want to outsource some of the management for WordPress, you can do that by creating a new user account for somebody instead of giving them your username and password and full capability to edit the site and potentially mess something up. One example of how I use this is I have a client portal on my website where I give my clients usernames and passwords, and each of them has a private page where they can download traffic reports to their website and other information that's private to them that they can only see if they're logged in. The last section here that we didn't really go into is just the settings. So you might just want to go through these when you first install WordPress. I'll just tell you the ones that I tend to focus on. So if I go over to the general settings here, this is where you can define your site title and tagline, and that's what's displayed up here. You can, if you want, you can sometimes customize this to be an image header so you don't display this text. You can see the WordPress address URL that it's installed on, and you can change your time and date format. Now, for the most part, I don't edit any of these besides maybe the title and the tagline. If we go into the writing section, this gives you a few ways that you can organize your posts. So you can set a default post category, a default post format, depending on the content of your website. And they also have a way that you can potentially submit a post via email. And I've never actually done that. I usually just log in and create my posts the old-fashioned way. If we go over to the reading section, this is where, if you remember from the beginning of the video, I told you, or I'm sorry, the first video, the home page by default uses the blog posts. So it'll show all your latest blog posts. But as I mentioned, because I build business websites, I usually create a separate layout for the home page. And this is where you can select the page over in this section, which is going to display on your home page. And then you create a separate page. I usually just name it the blog page over here in the pages section, and you set that to the post page. Like I said, I always use the static page for my home page. I don't default to this your latest post section. In the discussion, you can go through your comments. So there's different ways that you can organize your comments, nest them, moderate them. Because once again, I deal with business websites. I'm normally not looking too deeply into the user comments because most of my clients, they don't have blogs. We already went through the media section and how you can edit the sizes for the media. And the last one here, this is another important one. If we go to the home page here, it has, let me go to one of the inner pages. It has this weird /index.php. And the same thing if we go to a post page, you'll notice that it includes the URL or the the date and the month and the day in the URL. So what I normally like to do is I like to simplify this as much as possible and just eliminate all this extra characters in the URL, and I just want the post name. So I want my URL to be really short and really clean. And the way to do that is to change from whatever option is selected here by default and just go right to the post name. So that's all that I do in the settings section. So we've pretty much gone through every different section in here. I've given you an overview of how you can edit your WordPress website. I highly encourage you to look through my other videos because I have a lot more detailed videos about setting up a full website, designing a website with a theme, getting into some custom code, my favorite plugins. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel and go through and browse my videos, and you'll see some more detailed videos there. If you're interested in building websites for businesses as a service, you can check out websiteprofitcourse.com. That's my website where I have a one-page giveaway, which is the 15 tools to start your web design business. And those are the ones that I use on a daily basis to manage my client websites. And as always, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day.